The perfect setup. I never thought I'd be the type of person to plan an elaborate revenge. Before all this happened, I was just your average 34-year-old software developer living in Seattle, working for a mid-sized tech company, and coming home every night to my wife of 6 years, Melissa. We had what I thought was the perfect life: a renovated Craftsman in Ballard, weekend hikes in the Cascades, and plans to start a family soon. Until 3 months ago when I found out Melissa had been cheating on me with my boss, Daniel. It wasn't even a dramatic discovery. No lipstick on the collar or suspicious text messages. I simply came home early from a business trip, a conference in San Francisco that had ended a day sooner than expected, and found Daniel's Tesla parked in our driveway. The curtains were drawn, but I could see silhouettes moving in our bedroom upstairs. I sat in my car for nearly an hour, watching, processing, calculating. Instead of confronting them, I drove to a hotel downtown and checked in for the night. I needed time to think. Because something inside me had cracked open. Not just my heart, but something darker, something I didn't recognize. By morning I had a plan. Not just to leave Melissa, but to destroy everything she and Daniel had built, together and separately. They thought they were so clever, so deserving of happiness at my expense. I would show them exactly how wrong they were. The key was patience. And as it turns out, I'm a very patient man. Welcome back, Jason. How was the conference? Daniel's voice boomed across the open office floor plan as I walked in the following Monday morning. His hand was extended, his smile wide and artificial. I wondered how many times he'd practiced that greeting in the mirror, knowing he'd been screwing my wife for who knows how long. I smiled back, shaking his hand firmly. Educational, I replied simply. Learned a lot about what people can hide behind a friendly interface. If he caught my meaning, he didn't show it. Great. We've got the Axiom pitch this afternoon. You ready with those demos? Everything's prepared, I assured him. The Axiom contract was potentially worth millions, and Daniel had been working on landing it for months. It was his ticket to the executive suite, the promotion he'd been chasing for years. Little did he know, I'd spent the weekend making a few adjustments to the demonstration code. Melissa called me 3 times that day. I let each call go to voicemail, texting her that I was swamped at work and would call later. Each message she left sounded increasingly normal, casual even. Hey babe, just checking in. Don't forget we have dinner with the Petersons on Thursday. Can you pick up dog food on your way home? The performance was impressive. If I hadn't seen Daniel's car in our driveway with my own eyes, I might have believed nothing was wrong. Perhaps that's what hurt the most, not just the betrayal but how easily she slipped back into playing the role of loving wife. I arrived home at my usual time that evening. Melissa was chopping vegetables in the kitchen, some Netflix show playing on the iPad propped against the backsplash. She looked up and smiled, completely unaware that I knew everything. Hey, how was your first day back? She asked, putting down the knife to give me a quick kiss. I felt nothing but revulsion, but I returned the kiss anyway. The game had begun. Pretty standard, I said, grabbing a beer from the fridge. Although Daniel seemed especially chipper today. If she tensed slightly at the mention of his name, she recovered quickly. Oh, that's nice. Maybe he's finally getting somewhere with that big client he's always talking about. Axiom, I provided. Yeah, we're presenting to them this afternoon. That's right, she nodded, returning to her chopping. He's mentioned them a few times. Has he now? I thought. During pillow talk, perhaps? We're definitely getting close, I added, watching her face carefully. In fact, Daniel and I are flying to Chicago next weekend for the final negotiations. This time, I definitely saw a flicker of something cross her face. Disappointment? Calculation? It was gone in an instant. Next weekend? But we have the cabin booked, remember? For our anniversary? Our 6th anniversary. The traditional gift was iron, symbolizing strength and endurance. How appropriate. I feigned surprise. Oh damn, you're right. I completely forgot. Let me talk to Daniel tomorrow, see if we can reschedule. Thank you, she smiled, reaching over to squeeze my hand. It's important to me. I know, I assured her. It's important to me too. That night we went through the motions of our normal routine. Dinner. TV. Sex that felt like a betrayal itself. As she slept beside me, I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, remembering all the signs I should have seen. The late nights at work. The new lingerie I never saw her wear. The sudden interest in books Daniel had mentioned in passing. I picked up my phone and sent him a text. Can we move the Chicago trip? Forgot it's my anniversary weekend. His response came less than a minute later. No can do. Axiom CO only available then. Sorry man, you'll have to make it up to her later. I smiled in the darkness. Perfect. The Axiom presentation went exactly as planned. Daniel was in his element, smoothly delivering his pitch about our company's revolutionary approach to data security. The client seemed impressed. Then it was my turn to demo the software. I pulled up the program, clicking through the first few screens flawlessly. Then, right as I reached the key security demonstration, where our software was supposed to block a simulated hacking attempt, the screen froze, then displayed a glitching error message before crashing completely. The room fell silent. I made a show of trying to restart the program, apologizing profusely. "I'm so sorry," I stammered. "This has never happened before. The demo was working perfectly yesterday." Daniel's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. "Tech issues happen," he said through gritted teeth to the Axiom executives. "If you'll just give us a moment." He pulled me aside, his voice a harsh whisper. "What the hell happened?" "I don't know," I lied. "Maybe something got corrupted in the last build?" "Fix it," he hissed. "Now." But of course there was nothing to fix. I'd carefully engineered the failure to look like a fundamental flaw in our security approach, the very thing we were selling Axiom on. The demonstration continued to malfunction spectacularly, growing increasingly embarrassing as Daniel desperately tried to salvage the meeting. By the end, the Axiom team was politely non-committal, promising to be in touch, but exchanging glances that clearly said otherwise. As we packed up to leave, Daniel cornered me. "My office. Tomorrow. 8 a.m. His voice was controlled, but I could see a vein pulsing in his temple. "Bring every line of code for review." I nodded solemnly. "Of course. I'll figure out what went wrong." That night, I told Melissa about the demonstration disaster, watching her reaction closely. "Daniel's furious," I added. "I've never seen him so angry." "I'm sure he'll get over it," she said quickly. Too quickly. "It's not your fault if the software has a bug." "I don't know," I sighed. "He's talking about code reviews, possible delays with Axiom. This could set the company back months." She reached for her phone, then seemed to think better of it. "Well, I'm sure you'll fix it." "Yeah," I said. "I'm sure I will." Later, as she showered, I checked her phone. There it was, a text to Daniel. "Jay says presentation bombed. You okay?" No response yet. I replaced the phone exactly as I'd found it, a calm settling over me. Phase 1 was complete. The next morning, I was in Daniel's office at 7:55 a.m., a folder of code printouts in hand. He looked like he hadn't slept, his usually immaculate appearance slightly rumpled. "Walk me through exactly what happened," he demanded without preamble. "I've been reviewing the code all night," I said, spreading papers across his desk. "Look at this section here. It seems like there's a fundamental flaw in how we're handling the security protocol handshake." What followed was an hour of me explaining increasingly complex technical issues that I'd invented entirely. Daniel wasn't a developer himself. His background was in sales, which made it easy to lead him down a rabbit hole of technobabble. "So what you're saying is," he finally interrupted, massaging his temples, "this isn't a quick fix? This is a major architectural issue." "I'm afraid so," I nodded gravely. "We're talking weeks, maybe months of rebuilding." His face fell. "Axiom won't wait that long. Jensen Miller Solutions is breathing down their neck with a competing offer." "I know," I said sympathetically. "I feel terrible about this." He stared at me for a long moment. "Is there any way, any possibility that this could be fixed for the Chicago meeting? Even a partial demonstration?" I pretended to consider it. "Maybe. I'd have to work around the clock. Skip all my other projects." "Do it," he said immediately. "Whatever it takes. I'll clear your schedule. This is your only priority now. What about my anniversary weekend?" I promised Melissa. His expression flickered momentarily. "I'm sorry, but this has to take precedence. Company needs you. Like I said, you can make it up to her later." I allowed myself to look conflicted. "She'll be disappointed." "She'll understand," he said with a confidence that made my blood boil. "This is your career we're talking about." No, I thought. This is your career we're talking about. Mine is just collateral damage in my plan for you both. "I'll tell her tonight," I agreed reluctantly. "And I'll start on the rebuild immediately." "What do you mean you can't go?" Melissa's voice rose as I broke the news about our anniversary weekend. The demo crashed completely. "The whole project is at risk," I explained, watching her face carefully. "Daniel needs me in Chicago. Can't someone else go?" "It's our anniversary, Jason." I shook my head. "It was my code that failed. I have to be the one to fix it." She turned away, but not before I caught the calculation in her eyes. I could almost see the wheels turning. If I was in Chicago with Daniel, that meant neither of us would be in Seattle. She'd have to adjust whatever plans they'd made. "We'll celebrate when I get back," I promised. "I'll make it special." She nodded after a moment, the perfect picture of a supportive wife. "I understand. Your job is important." That night, I pretended to work late in my home office while actually monitoring Melissa's communications. She was careful, no obvious calls to Daniel, no blatant texts. But she did make a spa reservation for the weekend, something she'd never mentioned to me. The next few days passed in a blur of performance. I showed Daniel increasingly complex fixes to the non-existent problem, each one giving him just enough hope to keep believing we could salvage the Axiom deal. At home, I played the part of the apologetic, overworked husband, promising Melissa I'd make our missed anniversary up to her. By Friday, everything was in place for the Chicago trip. I'd booked our flights, reserved hotel rooms, and scheduled a meeting with Axiom's technical team. Daniel was stressed but optimistic as we boarded the plane. "You're sure the new demo will work?" he asked for the 10th time as we settled into our first-class seats. "Absolutely," I assured him. "I've tested it repeatedly. No issues." He finally relaxed, ordering a whiskey from the flight attendant. "Thank God. You know how important this is, right? Not just for the company but for me personally. The board is watching this deal closely." "I know," I nodded. "Don't worry. Everything's going to work out exactly as it should." As he sipped his drink, I pulled out my phone, ostensibly to check emails before takeoff. Instead, I opened a hidden app that connected to the cameras I'd installed throughout my house 3 days earlier. No activity yet. But the weekend was just beginning. Chicago was unseasonably cold that weekend, a bitter wind whipping between the skyscrapers as Daniel and I made our way to Axiom's headquarters Saturday morning. I could see his confidence growing with each step. He fully believed we were about to save the deal. The Axiom technical team was waiting for us, their expressions guarded after the previous demonstration's failure. Daniel smoothly reintroduced us, then handed the floor to me for the demo. I pulled up the program, took a deep breath, and began. This time, everything ran flawlessly, the interface responsive, the security protocols engaging exactly as they should. The Axiom team's skepticism gradually gave way to genuine interest as I walked them through each feature. Then came the moment of truth, the security demonstration that had failed so spectacularly before. I initiated the sequence, and it executed perfectly, blocking the simulated attack just as it was designed to do. I caught Daniel's eye across the room. He looked like a man reprieved from execution, his relief palpable. The rest of the meeting went smoothly, with technical questions I answered easily and pricing discussions that Daniel handled with his usual finesse. By the end, the Axiom team was practically sold. "We'll need to review with our CEO," their lead engineer said, "but I think we're all impressed with the recovery you've made since the last demonstration." After they left, Daniel grabbed me in a bear hug. "You fucking did it. I knew you would pull through." I returned his embrace, my smile not reaching my eyes. "Just doing my job." "This calls for a celebration," he declared. "Dinner's on me tonight. The best steakhouse in Chicago." "Actually," I said, checking my watch, "I think I'm going to head back to Seattle on the next flight. Try to salvage some of my anniversary weekend with Melissa." His smile faltered slightly. "You sure? We've got the rooms booked through tomorrow." "I'm sure," I nodded. "You stay, enjoy the city. I should get back to my wife." Something like guilt flickered across his face. "Right. Of course. I'll handle any follow-up questions from Axiom." "Perfect," I smiled, already pulling up flight options on my phone. "I'm booking a seat on the 2 p.m. Should be back in Seattle by dinner time." As I left the Axiom building, I felt Daniel watching me from the lobby. I wondered if he was already texting Melissa, warning her of my early return. It wouldn't matter. The cameras would tell me everything I needed to know. During the flight back to Seattle, I didn't access the home cameras. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what would happen once Daniel warned Melissa I was coming home early. She would panic, clean up any evidence of whatever plans she'd made for the weekend, and prepare to act surprised and delighted by my early return. Instead, I focused on the final phase of my plan. I reviewed documents on my laptop, made several encrypted calls using the plane's Wi-Fi, and sent a series of precisely timed emails. By the time we landed in Seattle at 4:30 p.m. local time, everything was in motion. I took a rideshare directly home, watching the familiar neighborhoods pass by with an almost surreal detachment. Soon, very soon, this chapter of my life would be over. Our house looked perfectly normal as I approached. Lights on against the early evening darkness, Melissa's car in the driveway. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. "Hello," I called out. Melissa appeared from the kitchen looking genuinely surprised. "Jason, what are you doing home?" She was wearing yoga pants and one of my old college t-shirts, hair pulled up in a messy bun. The perfect picture of a wife having a quiet weekend alone. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed it. "The demo went perfectly," I explained, setting down my bag. "Everything's back on track with Axiom. I thought I'd surprise you, see if we could still salvage our anniversary weekend." She crossed the room to hug me and I forced myself to return the embrace. "That's wonderful. Both that the demo worked and that you're home." She pulled back to look at me. "Have you eaten?" "I was just making some pasta." "Sounds perfect," I smiled. "Let me just freshen up first." In our bedroom, everything was immaculate, no sign that she'd been planning anything other than a quiet weekend alone. The bathroom was similarly spotless. As expected, she'd covered her tracks perfectly. Over dinner, I told her about the successful demonstration, watching her reactions carefully. She seemed genuinely pleased for me, asking all the right questions about the Axiom team's response and the next steps for the project. "And Daniel stayed in Chicago?" she asked, her tone perfectly casual. "Yeah, he wanted to celebrate, but I thought coming home to you was more important." Her smile seemed genuine. "I'm glad you did. Maybe we can still drive up to the cabin tomorrow? Spend the day there, even if we can't stay overnight." "I'd like that," I nodded. It wouldn't be the full weekend we planned, but better than nothing. After dinner, we watched a movie cuddled on the couch, just like any normal couple. When she kissed me and suggested we go to bed early, I followed her upstairs, playing my part in this charade one last time. As she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, just as I had that first night after discovering her betrayal. But this time, instead of pain and confusion, I felt only a cold certainty. In less than 12 hours, everything would change. I reached for my phone and sent a text to a number I'd contacted only once before. "Proceed as planned. 10 a.m. tomorrow." Sunday morning dawned bright and clear, a rarity for Seattle in autumn. I made breakfast while Melissa showered, preparing her favorite avocado toast and brewing the expensive coffee she preferred on weekends. "This is nice," she smiled, joining me at the kitchen table. "Thank you. I thought we could use a good meal before driving up to the cabin," I replied, pouring her coffee. "The forecast is perfect for a hike." We ate in comfortable silence, the Sunday morning stretching peacefully around us. To an outside observer, we would have looked like any happy couple enjoying a quiet weekend together. At precisely 9:58 a.m., I stood and began clearing the dishes. "I'll just load the dishwasher, then we can get ready to go." Melissa nodded, scrolling through her phone. "Sounds good. I'll pack us some snacks for the drive." At 10 a.m. exactly, the doorbell rang. Melissa looked up, surprised. "Are you expecting someone?" "No," I frowned, setting down a plate. "I'll get it." I opened the door to find a courier holding a large envelope. "Delivery for Jason Mitchell," he announced. "That's me," I confirmed, signing for the package. "What is it?" Melissa asked as I closed the door. "Not sure," I said, examining the unmarked envelope. I carefully opened it and pulled out a thick stack of documents. My expression changed as I flipped through the papers, letting confusion and then shock register on my face. "Jason, what's wrong?" I looked up at her, letting her see the bewilderment in my eyes. "It's financial records, bank statements, hotel receipts, phone logs." "What? Whose?" She stood now, moving toward me. "Yours," I said quietly. "And Daniel's." All color drained from her face. "What are you talking about?" I spread the papers across the dining table. There were bank statements showing matching charges at hotels and restaurants on dates I'd been traveling for work. Phone records highlighting hundreds of texts and calls between them, often late at night. Hotel receipts with both their names. And photographs. So many photographs, taken by the private investigator I'd hired the day after discovering them together. Daniel and Melissa entering hotels. Holding hands in a restaurant booth. Kissing in his car. "I know everything, Melissa," I said, my voice steady. "I've known for months." She stared at the evidence, her mouth opening and closing without sound. Then, predictably, came the denial. This isn't what it looks like. I can explain." "Don't," I cut her off. "Please don't insult me by lying more than you already have." Tears filled her eyes. "Jason, please, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything." 3 months isn't a mistake," I said coldly. It's a choice. A series of choices made day after day. The doorbell rang again. That'll be my lawyer, I said, checking my watch. Right on time. Her eyes widened. Lawyer? Jason, we need to talk about this. We're past talking, I replied, moving to answer the door. My attorney, Elaine Chin, stepped inside, briefcase in hand. She nodded professionally to Melissa before turning to me. Everything's ready. What's happening? Melissa demanded, panic rising in her voice. I turned to face her. I'm filing for divorce, effective immediately. The papers are all prepared. You have 1 hour to pack essential belongings and leave the house. You can't do this, she whispered. This is my home too. Actually, he can, Elaine interjected, opening her briefcase. The house is solely in Mr. Mitchell's name. Your name was never added to the deed after your marriage, as stipulated in your prenuptial agreement regarding property acquired before the marriage. Melissa's face crumpled. The prenup only covered assets we brought into the marriage, not what we acquired together. That's partially correct, Elaine agreed, but there's a moral clause you seem to have forgotten about. Section 12, paragraph 3 specifically states that infidelity nullifies all claims to jointly acquired assets. I watched the realization dawn on Melissa's face. She had signed that prenup without much thought 6 years ago. We'd both been so in love, so certain we'd never need it. You planned this, she accused, anger replacing shock. The Chicago trip, coming back early, you set me up. No, I corrected her. I simply gave you opportunities to make choices. Every decision was yours, Melissa. Just like your decision to sleep with my boss. Her face hardened. You won't get away with this. I'll fight it in court. You're welcome to try, I shrugged. But given the evidence and your signature on the prenup, it would be an expensive exercise in futility. I checked my watch again. Your time is ticking. 53 minutes left to pack. She glared at me, then at Elaine before storming upstairs. We heard drawers being yanked open, closet doors slamming. Are you sure you want to proceed this way? Elaine asked quietly. It's not too late to take a more conventional approach. I'm sure, I nodded. And this is just phase 1. While Melissa packed upstairs, I made a call. It's time. Send it now. 40 minutes later, she dragged 2 suitcases downstairs, her face tear-streaked but defiant. This isn't over, Jason. Actually, it is, I replied calmly. But before you go, I think you should know that Daniel won't be available to comfort you. Her eyes narrowed. What did you do? Nothing illegal, I assured her. I simply made sure the board of directors received some interesting information this morning. Financial discrepancies. Evidence of Daniel diverting company resources for personal use. Falsified expense reports. You're lying, she breathed. Daniel would never. Oh, he didn't, I agreed. I created the evidence. Very carefully, very thoroughly. But it's convincing enough that he's currently being questioned by the board in an emergency Sunday meeting. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, read the screen, and her face went ashen. That'll be him now, I nodded. Probably telling you he's been suspended pending investigation. She looked up at me, truly seeing me perhaps for the first time. Who are you? I never thought you could be so calculating? Ruthless. I suggested. Funny, I thought the same thing about you. You've ruined his career over nothing but jealousy, she accused. I laughed, the sound hollow even to my own ears. No, I've ruined his career because he slept with my wife and thought there would be no consequences. Actions have consequences, Melissa. You're both learning that today. She shook her head, tears falling freely now. You'll regret this. Perhaps, I conceded. But not as much as you two will. Elaine stepped forward, handing Melissa a card. My office will be in touch regarding next steps. I suggest you retain counsel immediately. Without another word, Melissa grabbed her suitcases and walked out the door. I watched from the window as she loaded them into her car and drove away, phone pressed to her ear, no doubt coordinating with Daniel about this unexpected disaster. Well, Elaine sighed, gathering her papers, that went about as expected. The divorce filing will be processed tomorrow morning. We should hear from her attorney within days. I nodded, suddenly exhausted. Thank you, Elaine. For everything. After she left, I stood alone in the quiet house. The house that had once represented everything I thought we were building together. I walked through each room slowly, touching furniture, looking at photographs I would soon take down. My phone rang. It was Rob, my contact at the office. It's done, he reported. Daniel's been suspended. The board is meeting again tomorrow to review the evidence. From what I hear, termination is a foregone conclusion. Any blowback heading my way? I asked. None, Rob assured me. You're being viewed as another victim of his financial mismanagement. In fact, there's talk of offering you his position once the dust settles. I laughed at the irony. Keep me posted. After hanging up, I walked upstairs to the bedroom Melissa and I had shared for 6 years. I stripped the sheets from the bed, stuffed them into a garbage bag, and opened the windows to let fresh air obliterate any lingering trace of her perfume. Then I sat on the bare mattress and allowed myself, for the first time since this all began, to feel the full weight of what had happened, what I had lost and what I had become in response. The perfect life I thought I had was gone. But so were the lies it had been built upon. The following weeks unfolded exactly as I had orchestrated. Daniel was terminated for financial improprieties, his reputation in the industry shattered. The evidence I had fabricated was convincing enough to justify his dismissal, but not quite solid enough to warrant criminal charges, precisely as I had intended. I didn't want him in prison. I wanted him unemployable in the only field he knew. Melissa moved in with her sister across town. Through her lawyer, she initially threatened to contest the divorce and prenup, but when presented with the full dossier of evidence documenting her affair, she quickly changed her approach. The divorce was finalized in near record time, with Melissa receiving only what she had brought into the marriage. As Rob had predicted, I was offered Daniel's position at the company. The Axiom deal went through, bringing with it a substantial bonus and stock options. From the outside, it appeared I had emerged from the wreckage of my personal life with my professional life flourishing. But success felt hollow. Each night I returned to an empty house, achievement providing poor company for the silent rooms. I had executed my revenge flawlessly, destroyed the people who had betrayed me, and yet found no satisfaction in their downfall. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I received an unexpected email from Daniel. We need to talk. No tricks, no lawyers. Just talk. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., Westlake Park. My first instinct was to ignore it. What could he possibly have to say that I needed to hear? But curiosity won out. I replied with a single word, fine. The next evening was unseasonably warm for Seattle, the park filled with people enjoying the rare sunshine. Daniel was waiting on a bench near the fountain, looking nothing like the polished executive I remembered. His expensive suits had been replaced by jeans and a worn sweatshirt. He'd lost weight, and a beard now covered his once clean-shaven face. I sat beside him without greeting, watching the water splash in the fountain. "Thank you for coming," he finally said. "What do you want, Daniel?" He sighed, running a hand through hair that needed cutting. "To apologize for whatever that's worth. Which is probably nothing." I said nothing, waiting. What I did, what we did, was unforgivable. I knew it was wrong every step of the way, but I justified it to myself. Told myself you were too absorbed in your work to make her happy. That she deserved better. "Spare me the rationalizations," I said coldly. "No, you're right," he nodded. "No excuses. I betrayed you, as your boss, as someone you trusted. There's no justification." We sat in silence for a long moment. "You destroyed my career," he finally continued. "My reputation. Everything I spent 20 years building. Actions have consequences." He laughed bitterly. "Yes, they certainly do. I've spent 3 months sending out resumes, calling in every favor, every connection. Nothing. Not even an interview. I'm radioactive." That was the idea. He turned to look at me directly. "I know. And I can't even say I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know something, Melissa didn't." This caught me off guard. "Didn't what?" "Deserve what you did to her," he clarified. "She wanted to end it multiple times. Said it was wrong that she loved you. I was the one who kept pushing, kept manipulating." I scoffed. "She's a grown woman who made her choices." "She did," he agreed. "But you should know she was going to tell you. That weekend when you were supposed to be in Chicago. She decided to confess everything, ask for forgiveness or accept the consequences. This revelation hit me harder than I expected. Why should I believe anything you say?" He shrugged. "You shouldn't, probably. But it's the truth. For whatever it's worth." He stood to leave, then paused. "One more thing. She's sick, Jason." My head snapped up. "What?" "Cancer. Diagnosed last month. That's actually why I reached out. I thought you should know." "What kind of cancer?" I asked, my voice unsteady. "Ovarian. Stage 3. She's starting treatment next week." He looked down at me, his expression unreadable. "She didn't want me to tell you. Said you had every right to your peace after what we did. But I thought, I don't know what I thought. That you deserve to know, maybe? He walked away then, leaving me stunned on the bench as the sun began to set over the park. I didn't sleep that night. Daniel's words echoed in my head, along with memories of Melissa. Not the woman who had betrayed me, but the woman I had loved for nearly a decade. The woman who had nursed me through pneumonia 3 years ago. Who had supported my career even when it meant long hours and missed weekends. Who had held me at my father's funeral when I couldn't stand on my own. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I called in sick to work, then spent hours making phone calls, pulling strings, and calling in favors I'd accumulated over the years. By afternoon, I had what I needed: the name of Melissa's oncologist, her treatment plan, and a list of the best specialists in ovarian cancer treatment on the West Coast. I drove to her sister's house, rehearsing what I would say, how I would approach this impossible situation. But when her sister opened the door, the carefully prepared speech evaporated. "Is she here?" I asked simply. Her sister's expression was guarded. "Why?" "Daniel told me. About the cancer. I need to see her." "She doesn't want to see you, Jason. Hasn't she been through enough?" "Please," I said, the word unfamiliar in my mouth after months of cold calculation. 5 minutes. Her sister hesitated, then stepped aside. 5 minutes? She's in the guest room. But if you upset her, I'm calling the police. I found Melissa sitting by the window, a book open in her lap, though she didn't seem to be reading it. She looked up as I entered, her face registering shock, then wariness. "Jason," she acknowledged, her voice carefully neutral. "What are you doing here?" "Daniel told me," I said simply. "About your diagnosis." Her expression hardened. "He had no right." "No, he didn't," I agreed. "But I'm glad he did." She looked away. "If you came to gloat about karma or cosmic justice, save it. I'm not interested. That's not why I'm here." "Then why are you?" I moved closer, sitting in the chair opposite her. "I've spent the morning arranging a consultation with Dr. Elena Vasquez at Stanford. She's the leading specialist in advanced ovarian cancer treatment." Melissa stared at me. "What?" "Your appointment is next Wednesday. I've booked flights, hotel, everything. Her success rates with cases like yours are significantly higher than the treatment protocol your current doctor has outlined." She shook her head in disbelief. "I don't understand. Why would you do this?" "Because despite everything, I don't want you to die, Melissa." Tears filled her eyes. "After everything I did to you? After what you did to me in return?" I looked down at my hands. "What I did, my revenge, it didn't make me feel better. It didn't heal anything. I thought destroying you both would give me peace, but all it did was turn me into someone I barely recognize." "I hated you," she whispered. "After everything fell apart, I hated you so much. But then I got the diagnosis and suddenly all that hate seemed pointless." We sat in silence, the weight of everything between us. The love, the betrayal, the calculated revenge, and now this unexpected crisis, making the small room feel airless. "I don't expect forgiveness," I finally said. "I don't even know if I can forgive you. But I know I don't want your death on my conscience." She studied my face. "You're different. So are you." She closed the book in her lap. "Daniel lost everything because of what we did." "Yes. And you orchestrated all of it." I met her gaze. "Every bit." To my surprise, she laughed, a small broken sound. "You know what's funny? When we first started the affair, he would talk about how brilliant you were. How you were wasted in development, how you should be running the company." I felt a sudden, unexpected pang. "He said that. All the time." She shook her head. "God, what a mess we made." "Yes," I agreed. "We did." She turned back to the window. "I don't know if I can accept your help." "It's not conditional," I said. "There are no strings. The appointment is made, the arrangements are paid for. You can take your sister instead of me if you prefer. But Dr. Vasquez has agreed to review your case, and she rarely accepts new patients." "Why?" she asked again, her voice smaller. "After everything?" I considered my answer carefully. "Because 6 years of marriage can't be erased by 3 months of betrayal. Because whatever happened between us, you deserve the best chance at survival. Because maybe this is how I start to find my way back to the person I used to be." Her eyes filled with tears that she quickly wiped away. "I'll think about it." I nodded and stood to leave, having said what I came to say. At the door I paused. "Melissa? For what it's worth, I'm sorry about how I handled everything. Not that I found out, not that I ended our marriage, but the way I did it. The person I became in the process." She nodded once, not quite meeting my eyes. "Me too." I left her sister's house feeling lighter than I had in months. Not happy, not even close, but as if I'd set down a burden I hadn't realized was crushing me. The next morning, my phone rang as I was getting ready for work. Melissa's name appeared on the screen. "I'll go," she said without preamble. "To Stanford. But I want to ask you something first." "Anything? Did you mean what you said yesterday? About trying to find your way back?" I took a deep breath. "Yes. I don't like who I became. The calculated cruelty, the absolute focus on destruction. That's not who I want to be." She was quiet for a moment. "I'd like you to come with me. To Stanford. Not as anything. Just as someone who knows everything and can help me process whatever Dr. Vasquez says." It wasn't what I expected. "Are you sure?" "No," she admitted. "But I think it's the right thing. For both of us." "Then I'll be there," I promised. The trip to Stanford was awkward but necessary. Dr. Vasquez was brilliant and direct, offering a treatment approach more aggressive than what Melissa's local oncologist had planned. The prognosis was still serious, but there was more hope than before. On the flight back to Seattle, Melissa turned to me. "There's something else I need to tell you." I tensed, bracing for another revelation. "I never stopped loving you," she said quietly. "Even during everything. It wasn't about not loving you. I got lost somewhere along the way, made terrible choices, but I never stopped." I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to reject her words, to protect the walls I'd built around my wounded heart. But another part recognized the courage it took for her to say them. "I don't know what that means for us now," I finally said. "I don't know if there can be an us again." "I know," she nodded. "I'm not asking for that. I just thought you should know." When we landed, I drove her back to her sister's house. Before she got out of the car, she handed me an envelope. "What's this?" "Something I wrote for you after the divorce. I never planned to give it to you, but maybe it will help explain some things. Read it or burn it, it's up to you." That night, alone in the house that had once been ours, I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, pages of Melissa's handwriting detailing her side of everything that had happened. Her initial resistance to Daniel's attention, the slow erosion of her boundaries, the self-loathing that grew alongside the affair. Her decision to end it, her plan to confess everything that weekend I was supposed to be in Chicago. Reading it didn't erase the betrayal, but it filled in missing pieces of a puzzle I'd been trying to solve for months. The next day I made another decision. I called Daniel. "We need to talk again," I said when he answered. "About your career." "I don't have a career anymore," he replied bitterly. "You will," I said. "Meet me at the office. Tomorrow 8 a.m. When he arrived, unshaven and suspicious, I was waiting with the company's legal counsel and 2 members of the board. "What is this?" Daniel asked, looking from face to face. "A rectification," I said, sliding a folder across the table. "In there, you'll find a statement from me acknowledging that the financial discrepancies attributed to you were, in fact, reporting errors. Not fraud, not embezzlement, simple accounting mistakes that were misinterpreted." The blood drained from his face. "Why would you do this?" "Because destroying your life didn't fix mine," I said simply. "The company will issue a statement clearing your name. It won't undo all the damage, but it will give you a chance to rebuild." "I don't understand," he shook his head. "After what I did." "I'm not doing this for you," I interrupted. "I'm doing it for me. For the person I want to be." I stood, extending my hand. "This doesn't make us even, and it certainly doesn't make us friends. But it's the right thing to do." After a moment's hesitation, he shook my hand. In the weeks that followed, life settled into a new pattern. I stepped down from Daniel's former position, returning to development where I'd always been happiest. My recommendation helped Daniel secure a position at a competing firm, not at his former level but a fresh start. Melissa began her treatment at Stanford, making the trip every other week. Sometimes I drove her to the airport, sometimes her sister did. We weren't back together. I didn't know if we ever would be, but we were finding a way to exist in each other's lives without the toxic mix of betrayal and revenge poisoning every interaction. 6 months after her diagnosis, Melissa's doctors declared her cancer in remission. The night she got the news, she called me in tears. "I owe you my life," she said. "No," I corrected her. "You owe it to yourself and to Dr. Vasquez. All I did was make a phone call." "It was more than that," she insisted. "You could have let me face this alone. After what I did, no one would have blamed you." "I would have blamed me," I said quietly. "And that matters more than I realized." There was a pause, then, "Can I see you?" "Not at Amy's, not at the airport. Just us. There's something I need to say in person. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes, neutral territory. Melissa looked better than she had in months, some color returned to her face, a spark back in her eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, wrapping her hands around her mug. "Of course. What did you want to talk about?" She took a deep breath. "I've been offered a job in Boston. A good one, with a research institute developing AI applications for medical diagnostics. They want me to head their UX team." "Boston," I repeated, surprised at the hollow feeling in my chest. "That's a big move." "It is," she nodded. "And before I accept, I need to know something." "What?" Her eyes met mine, vulnerable but direct. "Is there any chance for us?" "Not now, maybe not even soon." "But ever?" The question hung between us, weighty with implications. 6 months ago, I would have laughed at the very idea. But now, "I don't know," I answered honestly. "There's so much damage, so much hurt." "I know," she acknowledged. "And if you say there's no chance, I'll understand. I'll take the job in Boston and we can both move on with our lives." I looked at this woman I had loved, had hated, had sought to destroy, and then had helped save. The journey we'd taken together was nothing like what I'd imagined when we'd exchanged vows 6 years ago. It was messier, more painful, more real. "Don't take the job yet," I finally said. "Give us time. Not to go back to what we were, that's impossible. But maybe to build something new, something honest this time." Relief flooded her face. "Are you sure?" "No," I admitted with a small smile. "But I think it's worth trying to find out." We left the coffee shop separately, each returning to our own homes, our own lives. There were no promises, no guarantees, no fairy tale endings. Just two flawed people who had hurt each other deeply, now cautiously exploring whether healing was possible. I didn't know if we would succeed. But as I drove home alone, I realized something important. The perfect setup wasn't the revenge I had so carefully orchestrated. It wasn't the calculated destruction of those who had wronged me. The perfect setup was this: the courage to face our worst mistakes, the strength to forgive the unforgivable, and the wisdom to recognize that even the most broken things sometimes deserve a chance to be rebuilt. The end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible content.